What is up, YouTube? So I got 5 books, 5 Silver Age books that I'm sending to CGC for grading. Let's pop these suckers open and see what I got. Okay, so this is Amazing Spider-Man 28, first appearance of Molten Man. I'm guessing it's like a 1.0 book, right? Not much I could do with this to make it any better. However, I may be able to make this look slightly better. How? By getting this paper back where it kind of belongs. Easier said than done because it's so brittle. I'm not even going to attempt to try to whiten this thing because it would fall apart. But stuff like this I can get back in place with a good press and some humidity. Believe it or not, it's somehow still attached by one staple. So that is book number 1. All right, this is ASM 41, first appearance of Rhino. Awesome book, terrible shape. Totally detached cover. However, little stuff like this, getting that back in place will make it present a little bit nicer. I'll try to flip this over ever so gently. That's just missing. However, it is complete. Whole book is there. I don't know what they would grade this. I'm gonna guess it's probably falls in that same thing as like a 1.0 book. But it's the first Rhino. It's pretty valuable even at a 1.0. 1.0 is probably, I don't know, 200 bucks, something like that. So I'm gonna try to get some of this back in place a little bit and get that sent out as well. Let's go on to book number 3. All right, so this is Amazing Spider-Man 43, first full appearance of Mary Jane. This is a little better. So this is probably a 3540 book. It's got a slight spine roll. Does have that fold mark in the cover. The staples are good. Very discolored and stained. So I'm going to say it's probably a 3.0. However, I might be able to correct that spine roll a tiny bit and get this cover a little bit flatter. Maybe give this a little light cleaning to get some of these staining off. But we'll see. I just wanted to present better. It's not necessarily going to be about getting the grade higher than a 3 because this book is what it is. I don't think I can get this any higher than what it is. Just want to make it look nicer, so when it's slabbed, it's a nice presenting 3.0 first full Mary Jane. Next book. All right, number 4, we have a Fantastic Four, number 46. It does have that chunk missing out of the cover. It's got some other issues going on here. Like I said, getting this stuff back in the right place. I don't know if that was an added staple. Hope not. No, it wasn't. But as it sits, probably 2.0, 2.5 book. First appearance of Black Bolt. So fix this up a little bit as well. Maybe clean up this white a little bit and see what we got. All right, the 5th book and last book is Iron Man number 1. As you can see, another little chunk. If it wasn't for that chunk, I honestly think this would be a 5.0 book, but I'm gonna knock it down a bit. Some staining, some discoloring. I think this book was already pressed already just from the way it kind of looks. Staples are pretty nice. So not much I could do with this. I might try to whiten the Iron Man a little bit, just with some eraser, and maybe hit it with a light press. And it's going to be like a 4.0 book, 4 or 5 book maybe, just the way it is. All right, so this is the Fantastic Four 46, the first Black Bolt, and as you can see, a lot of splitting in the cover, so I'm going to try to press that, make it look a little pretty. Most of this is like light water damage. However, there's a little bit of dirt and soil buildup, so I'm going to try to erase some of it. Not a lot of pressure because these pages are so brittle. If you just press a little too hard, these pages are going to split. And I've had it happen to me before, and I don't want it to happen again, because I mean, you literally just got to glide this sucker, because if you apply too much pressure on a book like this, it's going to split on you. I'm almost afraid to even do this one, but I do want to make it look a little bit nicer when it's in a slab. I know I'm not going to really affect the grade much because this book is pretty beat up, but it's all for me. I already did the bottom. I know it doesn't really look like you could tell, but I did do that. Try to get a little bit in the middle here. And when you erase white, you only want to erase white. You do not want to erase any colors or blacks, because it will lighten them. I had a very light yellow comic, and I tried to erase a little bit on it, and sure enough, it faded it. I was super bummed about it too, because it was a nice book. So that's about it for trying to whiten this. I know I did a lot before the camera. I could try to do a little bit. I did the Fantastic Four already. Try to do a little bit over here. Like I said, this book is a brittle book. I don't want to do more damage to it than it's already done to it. There's already, I think that's a rip, or about to be a rip. Gotta be careful I don't hit a black bolt in the family jewels here. Cotton round, makeup pad, whatever you want to call it. Same thing, little to no pressure, but it just will take some soiling off, light soiling off, especially if you got like a little something stuck to the book. You could usually feel it and then maybe try to work with it. But I always like to try to wipe down a book, regardless if I think it's clean or not, before pressing. Got some splitting on this edge. All right, since I'm going to press this and I am going to steam it, it is okay to add a little moisture to it. So this is just distilled water. And no matter what you're doing with a book, unless you're going to submerge it, never spray on the book directly. So I just want to get a slightly, very, very, very lightly moist one of these. And I'm going to do this again. Sometimes that dry one just doesn't do enough. And you see I'm literally putting it on and dragging it. I'm not pressing on the book. And if it was a newer book and it wasn't so brittle, you could give it a little more pressure, but these old suckers, man, they will fall apart. A little bit of schmutz right there that I'm probably not going to be able to get off. Look at that. You get the idea. So that's probably as clean as I'm going to be able to get this book. just because I'm afraid to touch it. So I will steam this, and I will get this in the press. Okay, so whenever I'm steaming a book, I will use silicone parchment paper instead of white printing paper. So, sorry, it's the press heated up. If you're not adding any moisture to a book, you could just use printing paper. Works totally fine. It's totally safe. When you add moisture, that moisture is getting to the papers, and if you press it on regular white paper, it will stick and it can pull off ink. That's why whenever there's moisture, silicone parchment paper. You'll never have that issue. It's not going to stick to anything. So I am using a clothing steamer with distilled water, and I'm just going to try to steam the areas that I want to get nice and flat. A lot of people talk about humidity bats. They just take too damn long, so that's why I use a steamer. And when you're pressing a book that has issues on both sides, always check the bottom and make sure whatever the imperfection is sitting flat. Because if it's not, you're going to press it into an even worse shape, and it's going to get stuck like that. So silicone parchment paper under it, inside the back center fold, inside the front center fold, on the top. Press is heated up to 150. I'm going to leave it under heat for about 5 minutes and then let it cool down for about 2 to 3 hours. And in the meantime, I will work on the next book. All right, so next book I'm going to mess with is Iron Man #1. I'm not going to do much to this one because it's probably in the best shape of all these books I showed you. I'm just going to touch up the white a tiny bit, look at the back cover, and I'm probably going to press this without steam, just because I don't want to mess with the integrity of an old book if I don't have to. I mean, this isn't terribly discolored, but never hurts. Especially on the title, because it always looks nice when the title, if it's white, and it shows nice and white instead of yellow or cream or off-white. And that Iron Man, that Fantastic Four that's in the press, when I put the backer board in the middle, I did notice the center fold was detached. So it's another issue with that book. It's complete. The whole book is there. But that book very well could be a 2.0 book. Could be a 3.0, but it's probably going to be a 2.0. Just being real about it. I know I like to be optimistic and think it's going to be a 3, but it's probably not. It's probably a 2. But it's the first Black Bolt, so I'm okay. As long as it presents nice. Dry makeup pad. I'm pressing slightly harder on this one than I did the Fantastic Four, just because this book is not as brittle as that sucker. That sucker, man, I was afraid to touch it. All right, let's take a look at the back. Oof. So, got some staining across the top. I'm not going to mess with that. However, I am going to try to hit the perimeter with an eraser and some of the stuff in the middle and see what it looks like. All right, this is the Rhino. Cover's split, obviously, but I'm still going to press it like it's attached, and mainly I want to fix stuff like this, but I don't want to try to fold this back now because it's so brittle it'll just snap off and crack. When you add the moisture, it'll hopefully go back a little more gently. But this book is complete, so middles there. Big chunk missing out of the back of the cover. You can see how brittle this page is. So not much I could do with this book. It's gonna be a 0.510 book, no matter how I slice it. But I just want to try to make it look a little better by getting some of those cover folds out of it, so when it's in a slab, it actually presents a lot nicer. Okay, this is First Full Mary Jane, issue 43. Same thing, not a heck of a lot I could do with this except try to wipe down this cover a little bit. I'm gonna try to whiten this box a tiny bit. This is actually pretty white, but the Marvel Comics group's a little dirty. It does got some staining. I'm gonna try to hit this whole back cover. But it's a pretty solid book. It's fully attached. You know, it does have that subscription line that those old books have, the fold mark. But I'm gonna guess that even with some of the staining, it's gonna be between a 3.0 as high as maybe a 4.0 book, which is 4.0. I'd be super excited for this book. This is a pretty nice book, pretty important book. But I'm gonna clean it up and try to get rid of some of this stuff, give it a light press, because there's not much I could do with what's wrong with this cover, and see what it looks like. Okay, so I've been working on these couple books for a few days now, and kind of want to recap them, tell you what I think, what they look like. The first Molten Man, you know, it's a 0.510 book. It's attached cover, but super worn, rips, fold marks, you name it. Maybe it goes as high as a 1.8, but it's not going to be any higher than that. But old book, still valuable even at that grade. You know, the first Rhino was able to correct those folds in the cover. However, the cover split, detached completely. So same thing, could be a 0.5, could be a 1.5, but it's probably not going to be much higher than that. It's complete, psyched to own it, and actually will present well in a slab, in my opinion. Maybe not the whitest book, but it'll present well. And then the 43, which I'm guessing, I'm gonna go 3.5-ish on this one. First Full Mary Jane, does got a little bit of staining on the front cover, but flat, not a lot of color breaking creases other than that subscription line. So should be decent grade on that one. Fantastic Four First Black Bolt is probably a 2.0 book because the centerfold is detached. It does have that chunk out of the top corner. Got some splitting on the back cover as well, so I'm gonna guess like a 2.0 for that. Iron Man #1, it looks pretty nice. I mean, that one little chip in the corner, I'm gonna say it's probably a 4.0, 4.5. Be psyched if it's higher, but this is what it is. And then these books I just got in that I may add to the mix. This is X-Men 11. This is currently my oldest X-Men book I own. And this is a nice freaking copy, man. This is probably a 4.5 book in my opinion. Super flat. Does have a couple color breaking creases in it, a little bit of wear on the edges, but for as old as this sucker is, it's nice. And then I have X-Men 28, which is the first Banshee. Does got some issues here. Does look like it got some water damage. But it could be like a 2.5 book. So I'm not sure if I'm sending either of these in, both of these in. But these suckers are going out soon. This one, obviously, if I send in, I got to give it a little press and try to get that cover a little flatter. It's very wavy. But just wanted to create a video of what I do to Silver Age books before I send them in. I don't get as crazy as some people and take them apart and put them back together. However, I know they're low, but I just want them to look nicer when they're in a slab. So for me, they look nice when they're on a wall or I show them off or whatever I do with them. Because they're for me. They're not going anywhere. So I hope you liked my video. If you did, hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and I'll see you guys next time.